Let's begin our review with seasons. What is the reason for the seasons? The tilt is the reason for the seasons. The Earth is tilted around 23.5 degrees on its axis. Now, an axis is an imaginary line that runs from the North Pole to the South Pole. The imaginary line that separates the Northern Hemisphere from the Southern Hemisphere is called the equator. The Earth actually goes around the Sun, and that is called revolution. Another word for revolution is orbit. It takes the Earth around 365 and 1/4 days to orbit the Sun. The extra 0.25 accounts for leap year. That's that extra day in February that we have every 4 years. The Earth also rotates. Rotation is the spinning of Earth, and that gives us day and night. The moon also revolves or orbits around the Earth. Now, it only takes the moon 29 and a half days to orbit around the Earth. And from Earth, we only see one side of the moon. The moon doesn't have its own light, it's simply a reflection of light from the sun. There are 8 moon phases. Waxing is when the light is to the right. It's when the light is growing. And waning is light to the left. That's when the light is shrinking or leaving. Crescent is less than half, and gibbous is more than half. The vernal equinox. So, what is the vernal equinox? This is when the northern hemisphere starts to tilt toward the sun. Vernal means relating to spring or fresh, new. Here you have equal days and equal nights. So it's 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night. Whatever happens in the northern hemisphere, the opposite happens in the southern hemisphere. And the vernal equinox happens around March 20th, March 21st. Summer solstice. So, what is the summer solstice? This is when the northern hemisphere is tilted toward the sun. Some people think the reason why we're experiencing summer is because we're closer to the sun, when actually we are farther away from the sun. Solstice comes from the Latin sol, meaning sun, and sistere, meaning to stand still. This is when we have long daylight hours and short nighttime hours. The sun is at its highest point in the sky, and although it is summer in the northern hemisphere, it's winter in the southern hemisphere. This happens around June 21st, June 22nd. Autumnal equinox. What is the autumnal equinox? This is when the northern hemisphere starts to tilt away from the sun. Autumnal means relating to autumn or fall. Again, here you have equal days and equal nights. Although it is fall in the northern hemisphere, it is spring in the southern hemisphere. This happens around March 22nd, March 23rd. Winter solstice. What is winter solstice? This is when the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun. Solstice again comes from the Latin sol, meaning sun, and sistere, to stand still. Long night hours and short day hours. The sun is at its lowest point in the sky. And although it is winter in the northern hemisphere, it is summer in the southern hemisphere. This happens around December 21st and December 22nd. I hope this helps you to remember your seasons.
Okay, we're talking about seasons. First of all, let's pretend like this is Earth. There's an imaginary line that separates the two halves of Earth that goes straight across from east to west. What is that imaginary line called?
Equator.
Equator. So from east to west, you have the equator, this imaginary line that separates the hemispheres. So this top part of the hemisphere is which hemisphere?
Northern.
Northern hemisphere. Very good. So this bottom part here is the Southern hemisphere. Excellent. Okay, so what I tell you to remember is we are a part of Georgia. We live in Georgia, correct?
Yes.
So if we live in Georgia, Georgia is a part of the United States. The United States is a part of North America. North America is on which hemisphere? Northern hemisphere. Always remember where you are to determine whether you're on the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. So the part of us living in the northern hemisphere means whatever goes on in the north, the opposite happens in the south. Okay? So now, there's another imaginary line. That imaginary line is called the axis that goes from north to south. Now, if you look at this picture, is this an accurate picture of how the earth sits up?
No.
No, because the earth is what?
Tilted.
It's tilted. What's the degree it's tilted?
23.5.
23.5 degrees is the tilt. Okay? So, my earth should actually be more like this. Northern, southern. Okay? So this is how it should actually look because it is tilted. Now, part of our EQ says what would happen if the earth did not rotate or revolve. So I've been stressing to you to learn the difference between rotate and revolve. So rotate means to spin. So rotate, you have something that is centered that is spinning on its own axis. So you can think of a ballerina. When a ballerina does her pose and she spins, okay? Or if you think of a basketball, if you sit it on the ground, or if you can put it on your finger and it spins, okay? That's rotate. Revolution is when it does what?
Orbit around.
Orbit is another word for it, but orbit means to what? Go around, okay? So, what I want you to think of is rotate is to spin, as revolution is to orbit. Let's get rid of some of this. Okay? Rotate is to spin as revolution is to orbit. You need to know the difference between those two. Because the earth not only rotates on its axis, but it also revolves around the sun. But there's another thing that's revolving around earth, which is the moon. The moon revolves around earth, and it takes 29 and a half days for the moon to go completely around the earth. So the EQ, back to the EQ. What would happen if the earth did not rotate? So if the earth did not spin, what would happen? Yes.
There would be no seasons. No.
Day and night.
No day and night. There would be in the same day. Like.
Right. It would be what? Day in one side all the time and night on one side all the time. That means for 24 hours on one side of the earth it'd be day, on the other side it'd be night. So it's the spin gives us day and night. So then when talking about revolution, if we did not revolve around the sun, we wouldn't have the seasons that we have. But the other reason we have season is because of the what? The tilt. So the reason for the seasons
It's the tilt and revolution.
is the tilt and revolution of Earth around the sun. The seasons will always go in order. We always have a winter, spring, summer, fall. It's never winter and then summer. It's gradual. It's a change. Winter, spring, summer, fall, always. But remember, whatever happens in the north, the opposite happens in the south. So Monday was March 20th. That was our first day of what? Spring. So if it's spring in the northern hemisphere, then in the southern hemisphere it's fall. So then let's talk about equinox and solstice. So equinox, what did I tell you to think of? Equals. Equal day and equal night. Equal day and equal night. So that's 12 hours of day and night. And then you have your solstice. There's a winter solstice. The winter solstice is long night, short days. And then your summer solstice is long days, short nights. Okay? All right, so those are the solstice and the equinox. Autumnal fall. Vernal is spring. All right, those are your equinoxes. Okay, we'll finish this tomorrow. Have a good day.